Okay, this is the procedure for removing your power steering box out of a Isuzu Bighorn or Jackaroo. So I've already made a start, but first you want to grab a 17mm spanner and loosen off the hydraulic lines going into it. There's two that need loosening off. Wind them right out and the fluid will start to flow or empty out of the reservoir, and just let it drain into a bucket. So get those up, those two little threaded collars there, and then what we're going to do now is lift these two tubes out. They won't come out at the moment because there is a 10mm nut or bolt that you need to remove, which is down the front of the radiator, and you can see my tube socket, the mysterious 10mm sticking out there right in the center of the screen. So that guy down there, my 10mm socket stuck onto the nut you need, or the bolt you need to take out, and this bolt holds the two hydraulic lines which run up into the top of the pump. So you get that out and these two lines will lift up and clear of the steering box. So I reckon the hardest part of getting the steering box out of one of these things is that annoying little 10mm bolt sticking out of there. Just a word of warning, it's just about out now, but when you've got your spanner down there, make sure you don't whack the fins in the radiator, because you'll weaken them and they'll blow on you at a most inconvenient time. Another thing I should point out, I don't run a fan cowling up in the back of the radiator. It just makes it easy to work on. Not so good for cooling, but as long as you keep an eye on the temperature, it's generally not too bad, but it allows you to clean the core much easier in place. So that's what we're trying to remove, that holds the two lines heading in. What I mean by the two lines is these two, I can't get them to come out. Anyway, they should lift out a lot easier out of there now. There we go. Once you get rid of that little clip, that guy there. Next thing to take off is the steering column shaft, this guy here, and there's a 12mm in there that you want to undo. Right, where was I? Looking for that guy there. So that's your 12mm on the steering column. So we have to wind that right out. There should be a spring washer on this, but I think I might have lost mine. But I'll put, oh no, there's one on there. There we go, I haven't lost it. Now, that should slide up because there's a collapsing steering columns, and these are collapsible, so they have a slide mechanism in them. So if you slide that back, if I can, we'll need a gentle persuader. So get that in there, and that should just move back. There we go. And that's on a spline. So if we, it's a bit hard doing this one hand. Slide that off there. Now, there's like a keyway there which allows the bolt to key in there, so even if the bolt's slightly loose, it still can't come off the end here. So now we're going to take this big hairy nut off. I go and unwind this sucker using a 32mm socket. Which is surprisingly easy. Take that off completely, and that will allow you to get your pitman puller in there. Okay, done. Okay, so we want a pitman puller, that guy there. You can buy these. This one has been reinforced because they bend a bit. So I welded on a bit on here, and it's got a couple of reinforcing bits down here as well. Does the trick. So we'll go find a socket to fit on there. Okay, now I've got the 4 nuts off the end of these bolts, which bolt the steering box to the chassis. Now we're going to wigwam this guy up into here. There are other ways of doing this. Just get one of these, but you can see it doesn't fit in there because that thing's in the way. So what we do is we fold out the whole of the steering box, because it's all loose now. We move it out into here, and that way it's going to clear here. But I can't do this all with one hand holding this, so I'll come back to you once I've done it. But just remember, before you start moving the steering box around, make sure you've pulled both of the hydraulic lines out, because you'll stuff something. Okay, so steering box has been moved out from the chassis a bit, which should give me enough clearance up behind the back here to clear the suspension arm down here and get the pitman puller on, which is that guy there. So that will now fit on there nicely. So it's just a matter of tightening that guy up, which pushes on that and pulls the pitman off. So I'll find a socket to fit on there. Right, this is a bit of a worry. I've had to go super professional now and use a tripod. I'm sick of the shaking. Anyway, as I said, the steering box has been moved out from the suspension bush, which now means you can hold it with 2 hands and do up the puller. And the pitman arm will come straight off. There we go. Now I can guarantee yours won't come off this easy, because I've been here a few times and I'm using copper coat or anti-seize on the spline, which means when you go back you can get it off again. There we go. Done. Now that steering box can go out between the guard and the chassis rail underneath where the wheel is, because this vehicle's had a body lift, which gives me more clearance. I haven't tried, but you probably get it out through here, but you're going to have to drop off the radiator hose. That guy up there, which is a pain. Anyway, we'll go around and take it out through the guard. Right, we're looking through from the driver's side guard at the moment, right hand side of the vehicle, depending where you are. And that's what I mean with the body lift. It's lifted the body up quite a reasonable amount from the chassis, which gives me enough room to pull this out through here. So I'm going to bugger around for 5 minutes or so, getting that through that little gap, and you're done. My lighting is shit, but anyway, I got underneath the truck and gave it a heave-ho. As you can see, it's just sitting on the inside of the guard now, and just comes out through there. Done. I made it look a bit retarded, but you can do it that way. I don't think you can do it unless you've got a body lift. What I mean body lift, 50mm body lift up in there, so it gives you a hell of a lot more clearance through the side here. Anyway, that's how you get your steering box out. So I'll go and pull this apart and figure out why it's leaking. Okay, so the steering box is out. Now, just go over this very quickly. As I mentioned, I might have mentioned, I'll actually do a full tear down on this in one of my other videos. Not sure if I tear it down or rebuild it, one of the two. But anyway, have a look. I put a new seal kit in it. So this one is for the high pressure input from your power steering pump. This one is a low pressure return. That's your input spline for your steering. And that is your spline for your pitman arm. You just check that. Make sure they're nice and straight. They can get a little chicane in them or bend. If you've had a big hit and you've bent it, you can damage that. That's about it really. Put your jam nut up on the top there which is often used for adjusting the slack out of your steering wheel. I wouldn't recommend mucking around with that. Most people who muck around with these make a hash job of it anyway. So, as I said in one of my videos, I've done a tear down on this. I'm going to pull this apart and fix the seal on the front here, figure out why it's leaking again. It's a damn pain. Anyway, thanks for watching. That's how you get your steering box out.